Hello. So I'm going to babble a little bit more than usual before I start my reviews this time. So if I remember, I'm going to put a time link below so you could just go straight to the review if that's what you want. But basically, the story is my family and I recently went to Jamaica, which is fantastic. I'm going to talk about it a little later. But my big agenda while I was visiting was to go see Hampden Distillery. It was tricky because we visited during Easter weekend, and Jamaica basically shuts down during Jamaica week. Particularly the big cities basically shut down during Easter weekend. So we had to push it up to basically the right before our flight, which is a little interesting. But I did get to see Hampden, and oh man, it is one of the coolest places I've ever been. So Hampden Distillery is in Trelawney, kind of north central Jamaica. It's about an hour's drive east from the Montego Bay Airport. Take the coastal roads, do not, and don't trust your GPS. By the way, ask people. Anyways, so it's in Trelawney, which used to be the center of sugar and rum production in Jamaica. There are still two active distilleries there, Hampden and Long Pond, but there used to be a lot more. The roads there are very interesting. They're extremely pothole ridden, so you get to see cars sort of weaving all over the road as you drive along to the distillery. It's I call it the Trelawney Shuffle, but the distillery itself is unbelievably cool. I mean, very little has changed for 250 years there. The distillery itself is. It's basically in an open shed. The stills look ancient. Everything is covered in black stuff and cobwebs. It's very, very hot. And the only thing not being, attacked by the sun is the fermentation building, which is the oldest thing there. Like the bricks haven't shifted since the 1750s. And that is kind of that has a roof, and that is so light can't. The design is very interesting. The roof doesn't let light in, but it lets air in because the fermentation vats are open, and there's little holes in the ceiling to let the yeasties come inside. Everything at Hampden is wild fermented. They don't pitch yeast. It's just kind of I wouldn't say it's not that the fermentation is random. It's that they're so plugged in to their terroir at this point. That's a good way of putting it. Like, it is a distillery that has synthesized with its own terroir. That's what's going on. It's so plugged into that the yeast is extremely consistent from batch to batch. Probably more so than if they were actually pitching their own yeast. It's extremely impressive. The entire place has different smells. Overwhelmingly, it's almost like a fermenting ketchup kind of smell. Yeah, every other distillery I've gone to, even the ones that are a little bit run down, have a sense of sterility to them to some extent. Hampden, absolutely not. Like, it's just, yeah, it feels like it's the equivalent of, I talked about this in the first Rumfire video I did years ago. It feels like the equivalent of something like Lopez de Heredia in Rioja, like the tropical distillery equivalent of a great old chateau that hasn't kind of rebuilt everything to look good for the tourists. That's Hampden, and I hope they never change anything. Anyway, so I wanted to do a Hampden review, so we didn't do checked luggage, so I couldn't bring back the brand new HCLF overproof, which I did get to try it. It's very good. I did bring back a bottle of Charlie's from Duty Free, but I wanted to review a Hampden, so I'm going to review this stuff. The Hampden 8-year-old, which is probably the most available Hampden in the States right now. I have tried this before, and I was a little bit leery on buying it, and I will explain why. So in some ways, this represents the kind of the last decade and change of Hampden more so than any other rum. Because what you have to remember about Hampden is up until then, they had never sold any of their own rum under their own name, and they had never kind of aged their own stocks before. Like the warehousing facilities are completely new. Everything they did before then was just selling bulk rum. They would distill it. They would maybe store it in a tote or something for a while, and then a truck would come, take it away, and that's the last they'd see of it. If you see aged Hampden older than the last, again, decade and change, that's all been aged in Europe. That's all, in negociants. This kind of represents the change in philosophy, because this is aged themselves, bottled under their own name, and just the makeup of this is interesting. This is all, so it's still wild fermented, still natural color, unchill filtered, all that stuff, and aged by them in the tropics. But it's all the OWH mark, which is the lowest ester mark in the Hampden range. It only tops out at about 80 hectoliters of 80 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol. So it's, which is like, and Hampden goes up to like 20 times that. So this is pretty tame ester-wise by Hampden standards. And it's also aged for 8 years, which is, pretty long in the tropics. On the label here somewhere, they say it's equivalent to 25 years aging in the continent. It's more complicated than that, but sure. So basically it's a lower ester, higher, more oak-driven version of Hampden, and so it's just never. I've tried it. It was the one that never really kind of got to me. It feels a little bit like, could Black Sabbath write a piano ballad circa the early 70s? Of course they could, and it's going to be good because like Black Sabbath did not miss back then, but it's not going to be the best song in the album. It's not going to even be in the top 3. Because it's just not playing to their strengths, if you kind of get my meaning. That's kind of how I felt about this. But I'm going to review it because I feel like I should, and there are Patreons giving me money, funding, tasting experience like this. So, but it needs a sparring partner, right? And what am I going to put up against a kind of lower funk, if you like, more wood-driven Hampden like this? Appleton Estate 12-year-old. I have not reviewed this, and you have forgotten about this, haven't you? Because it's in the sort of overload of cool rums coming out these days. This one kind of gets lost, but even without trying it, this stuff deserves the highest praise I can possibly offer any rum, because this is one of the bottlings that was kind of keeping the light alive during the dark times. Circa 15 years ago, if you wanted to try a integrity-driven, serious rum, your options were limited. Information out there was not very much, and usually quite bad. There was rum ratings, God help us, and occasional videos from Ralphie, and I don't know if I really agree with Ralphie's taste in rum all that much, and not a whole lot else. And if you actually wanted to, and if you actually got the information you needed to go out to buy some bottles, what was there? I mean, there was the Appleton range, particularly this one. There was Mount Gay. There was a couple of things from Martinique available in the U.S., and that was kind of it. Beyond that, it was all, multi-column and distilled stuff. It was, stuff, sugared up to its neck. It was stuff bottled at 40%. And so things were difficult. Things were difficult back in the day. You were spoiled, and to some extent you have Appleton 12 and a few things like it to thank for stuff like the current Hampden Estate series. This paved the way for this, so respect. So I'm gonna try both of these and give them a review. I'm kind of amazed I haven't reviewed these yet. And I don't know, it's gonna be a fun matchup. The Hampden is, of course, all pot distilled and wild fermented, and bottled at higher strength than this. And it's a Hampden, which is kind of a Ferrari to the Appleton Estate's Chevrolet. But the Appleton Estate is 12 years versus 8 years, so I'm not sure. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. All right, let's get some notes on the table. Jesus, I'm already 10 and a half minutes in. All right, let's go. Appleton Estate, blended style rum, single estate Jamaican rum. Appleton does insist on this aged a minimum of 12 years statement, which is to kind of separate it from the dreck that's often out there on the rum shelves. I appreciate that. Bottled at 43%, molasses-based. Don't know what else to say about it. Classic. Probably bottled 2022. Ooh. Okay. Let's get some notes. RC Cola is the thing that stands out to me first. There's also a rust note, which is something I get very often on blended molasses-based rums. Like almost like a rusted junkyard car kind of thing. Vanilla. Definitely a lot of vanilla going on here. The wood is... There's a lot of wood in play here. But then, like, there's some tobacco happening, maybe some, like, Virginia burley flake happening. Molasses cookies, really. Cherry, fried plantain. Tea, Assam tea, like really malty tea. White pepper. And something which after I tried the Appleton Hearts, a year or two ago, something I now associate with Appleton Estate, which is rose jelly. Like Lebanese rose jelly is a note I now like just have tied up in my brain with Appleton. Cherry. So definitely like a lot of wood going on here, but you can still tell it's a rum. So like if you are a bourbon drinker and you're kind of looking to explore into rum a little bit, I mean, the first thing I would tell you is go buy a bottle of Wray Nephew White Overproof. But when you balk at that and come back to me and say, but you know, I need the woods, I'm gonna throw you this because like there's a lot of wood in here, lots of vanilla and lots of cherry, lots of just a classic Americana. But you can definitely tell this is a rum. Little hints of like fennel, black olive as well. It's a nice nose. It's definitely wood driven, but also just keeps the integrity. You can tell this is a rum, and you can tell it's from Jamaica. On the palate. Ooh, very grippy. Really grippy. Lots of wood tannins on this. Coming out the back end. Covers my whole mouth with, you know, basically black pepper and like overstewed tea. It's big and it's tarry and it's really woody. Notes, a lot of the same notes from the nose. RC Cola, rusty car, but salted licorice as well. Vanilla, of course. I kind of is tied up with the oak. Cherry as well, but also like almost a smoky, like a cherry wood smoke, like cherry wood hard smoke, cherry hardwood, whatever. Moving on, and then that kind of just big overstewed sweet tea kind of thing happening on the back end. Pink peppercorns. That's not one I use often, but it's here. That rose jelly thing. is definitely in the house. Olives, fennel, once again. Tobacco again, but this time it's really all burley flake. It's really serious, actually. I'm going to give this some water. I'm a little bit scared of adding water to this because the wood might come out even more, which would be... And the wood is already very, very loud with this. Incidentally, I was never really a huge fan of Appleton 21 just because I kind of thought, like, this is woody enough for me. I'm good. All right. This is a good rum. It just is. Like, and it's just like a glass of ice cold water in the desert if you're, like me, circa 2008, looking for decent rum. Like, I respect this stuff. And it just feels like it's comfortable in this kind of wood-driven style. Unlike maybe the next bottle. I don't know, Appleton. I don't know, Hampden. I don't know. Can you pull this off? Low ester, high wood Hampden. Here we go. OWH mark. I already basically gave you the stats. There's a lot of writing on this label, which is all useful, actually. 46%, probably bottled circa 22 or 21, maybe. And just as I was about to trash this, I mean, when I name some of the notes, it's going to sound similar, but this is just another world. Like, it's just... It's so much more like three-dimensional than the Appleton is. And I'm not saying the Appleton is bad. Flowers. Flowers are the big difference. There was that little kind of hint of floral thing going on with the rose jelly thing happening in the Appleton, but this is just like you picked all the flowers in the field and then piled them together and stuffed them up your nose. That's what this smells like. And cherry cola. So you poured cherry cola all over the flowers. Less wood. I mean, you can tell it's there. There's a fair amount, but less wood than the Appleton. Banana peel, kind of a sea breeze kind of thing. Quite a bit more minerality as well. Like, I wasn't really getting minerality in the Appleton, but this has, I'm smelling gravel, and I'm enjoying it. Blueberries, black licorice, lots of black licorice. But then there's also the oak. There's vanilla, there's creme brulee, there's some cherry happening. Pencil shavings. Stewed Irish breakfast tea. Let's go for that one. And the tobacco is there, but this time it's more like Perique and a little bit of Latakia, rather than straight up, Virginia and Burley. I mean, this is a Hampden built for the mass market, built to be safe, but it's still a Hampden. I mean, yeah. I mean, I could identify this as a Hampden from across the room. Okay, here we go, on the palate. That's interesting. So let me first note kind of the form of this, because the mouth length, which as a term I'm trying to get started, is actually fairly short on this. It sort of stops my molars. Does not cover the whole back of my throat and all that stuff. But what is happening in the front is extremely dense and serious. Cherry cola and licorice forever, with Irish breakfast tea and pencil shavings and tons of flowers. I mean, it's really dense, but the finish is actually, the mouthfeel, the mouth length is shorter, and the finish is a hair bit lighter than the Appleton 12. I'm not sure if it's less good, but it's different. It's a little bit lighter on its feet. Rocks, berries, pepper, brine, and then like dense, dark wood tannins, just not quite as much. It's really impressive, actually. Damn it, I didn't want to like this one. There's tobacco, Virginia Perique, with Virginia Perique Latakia. Like some vanilla wafers happening in the mix. Did I already mention banana peel? That's kind of happening as well. And lots of rocks. That's kind of what's the big difference from the Appleton. Aside from the flowers, is the difference is flowers and rocks for me. That's the really big qualitative difference. I don't know. At this point, I like it a hair more than the Appleton, especially on the nose. But we shall add some water and see. So yeah, Jamaica's terrific. We've done a couple of family trips at this point, and this has been the best so far by a lot. Yeah, so the main thing I would say is get the hell out of the resorts, get out of Montego Bay and or Kingston. Go to some of the smaller cities. Go to we went to Treasure Beach in St. Elizabeth Parish on the kind of the southwest coast. Go to Portland in the northeast. Apparently it's gorgeous. We haven't seen it yet, but we wanted to. Rent a car. You can do a driver too, but I found it more fun to drive myself. It's just, the food is amazing. The people are fantastic. Ask for help. Ask for directions. Just do it. Do not trust your GPS. Do not trust what you find on the internet. It is, you other places in the world you can kind of trust that stuff, but not Jamaica. Just pull over and ask someone. Just do it. Swallow your pride and do it. Yeah, we were there over Easter, and there were like little churches that had set up bouncy castles. My daughters were delighted. The beaches were fantastic. Everything was wonderful. And I learned that American Jamaican food has been spiced up for our benefit, I guess, because most of, like, my wife has difficulty with spicy food, and she was fine. She was like, the kids were great. They ate like festival the entire weekend. Festival is basically fried dumpling stuff. It's great. Yeah, can't say enough good things about the country. But yeah, ask for help. Talk to people. They're very happy to talk back and help you find your way around. And yeah, just get out of the resorts, get out of the tourist places, and go see some distilleries. All right, let's resume our regular programming. Back to Appleton 12. I'm really a little bit scared to see what happens, because when you add water to something that's very wood driven, often the wood comes out even more and kind of starts clawing at your face. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. At least on the nose, it hasn't happened. It's actually become more floral. Like there's some orange peel happening now, and the rose jelly is really kind of coming out. This is surprisingly delicate for something that without water was just so aggressively woody. Wow, okay. Did not see that coming. All right, let's see what happens on the palate. So still very, very tannic on the back end. Again, if you're a bourbon drinker and you miss the good old days of Elijah Craig, 18-year-old, like this might scratch that itch a little bit. Really. But the tannins kind of loosen their grip a little. It sweetens up a bit. It kind of lightens up. Becomes more like more Dorley's-like, more Foursquare-like, for lack of a better way of putting it. It becomes more kind of light on its feet, aromatic. Classy is the word that comes to mind. This is classy. Like it's very well balanced. It's Jamaican. Like it's got that DNA, but it's bringing in the wood. It's bringing in lots of things that I could see lots of non-rum fanatics enjoying. I really like this. I'm kind of score-wise, I'm kind of stuck between an 84 and an 85. So let's call this an 84 plus. Which is not a stratospheric score by any means, but price-wise, this is what, around $40, 45 maybe. And the malts you can get around that price range, for example, especially the stuff from Ireland, God help you, the stuff from Japan, they are not as good as this. Are there a couple of bourbons and ryes and stuff that can kind of stand toe to toe with this? Yeah, absolutely. Some brandies is tough to think of a lot, but otherwise it's like this is for the price and this kind of wood-driven style. This is very, very good. And to some extent, if you can't get the entry level four squares and stuff, this is where kind of wood-driven rum starts to get interesting. And yeah, I'll leave it there. 84 plus. Did I mention this is like $30 cheaper than the Hampden now? This is, I love you, Hampden. $70 is too much for this. It's just too much for this. It's just too much for this. All right, back to the Hampden 8-year-old. Now with a splash of water. Pretty much similar, actually. A little bit more pencil shavings going on. A little more, well, RC Cola coming out, kind of intermingling with the cherry cola. But otherwise, kind of where it was before, which is fine by me. Let's see what happens on the palate. Ooh. Okay, in this case, the wood did come out much, and it kind of improved the mouthfeel and the mouth length and the finish. Much bigger in the mouth now. I mean, it's a lower ester wood-driven Hampden, but man, it's still a Hampden. It's still dense, cerebral, but approachable at the same time. Like there's enough kind of common threads you can hang on to if you're a whiskey drinker, for example, that I don't think this is going to, scare off. It'll scare off a couple of people, but it won't scare off everyone. It won't scare off the adventurous. You will be baffled and confused the first time you try this, but I think you'll be able to find your way. Interesting. I mean, it's not, as I initially thought, it's not a style where Hampden is playing to its strengths. But it's still pretty darn good. I'm going to give this, I was going to go 86, but it does improve with water. I'm going to go 86 plus. 86 plus for the Hampden 8-year-old. And yeah, that's review. 84 plus for Appleton 12. 86 plus for Hampden 8. Thanks for watching, and more Jamaican content to come, I guess. Cheers.